Warm welcome to all the viewers. Today I am going to discuss something very important, especially for the beginners to understand when to use IBM AMOS and when to use SmartPLS. The difference lies in the type of models they can analyze. So let us first talk about AMOS. AMOS helps us to understand the covariance based structural equation modeling. What is variance? Variance is simply the distribution of the data points from the mean value in a single data set. What is covariance? Covariance is the relationship between two variables. If one moves, the other moves as well in positive or negative direction. So the direction is told to us by covariance. So that is covariance based structural equation modeling, wherein you have two paths. The first is measurement model assessment and the structural model assessment. So what is the difference? When to use AMOS and when to use SmartPLS? PLS works on variance-based structural equation modeling. Now, if your goal is to check a theory, then you must go in for CBSEM in AMOS. If your goal is to predict and get out new findings from the study, then use SmartPLS for conducting PLS-SEM. Partial least square structural equation modeling. Another difference lies here that when all the constructs, means all the latent variables which are unobserved, have reflective indicators, in that case you can go with AMOS. In case you have any formative indicators for a particular latent variable in the model, then you cannot go ahead with AMOS. AMOS can just work with reflective constructs. But when you have formative, you need to go into SmartPLS to do a PLS-SEM modeling. Another is SmartPLS cannot work on non-recursive models. A recursive model is where the relationship between the different latent variables is unidirectional. So you say one variable affecting the second and second affecting the third. That is a recursive model. When I say that the third variable again influences the first variable, it becomes a non-recursive model. And there's a loop in the model. That is known as non-recursive model, which can be analyzed with AMOS. It is not possible to conduct the analysis on non-recursive model in SmartPLS. Now, let us talk about when you have formative constructs. The variables which are measured through formative indicators, we say all the indicators have different meanings. And when we talk about reflective indicators, we say that they convey the same meaning which contributes to the overall meaning of the latent variable. The measure of reliability and validity for reflective and formative constructs is different. For a formative construct, how to measure the reliability? So, reliability means internal consistency between the indicators. That is assessed through the correlation they exhibit within each other. What is the correlation between them? Right? So there has to be a high correlation between the indicators if they are reflective in nature. And we assess the reliability through Cronbach alpha and composite reliability. But in case of a formative construct, wherein you have formative indicators, we don't expect high correlation because every item is different. Every indicator is producing a different meaning. So, we assess the reliability here in case of formative indicators. We don't call it reliability actually. We assess the variance inflation factor, VIF values. That helps us to assess the collinearity. So the collinearity between these items, these formative items, should preferably be less than 3. Some recommend it to be less than 5. But if you are getting well below 3, that's fantastic. Now let us talk about validity. You all know that in case of reflective indicators, we assess the convergent validity through the AVE values, that is average variance extracted. We say that each indicator should have a AVE above 0.5 so that it meaningfully contributes to the latent variable. In case it is less than 0.5, we have to make a decision whether to include or exclude that indicator from the model. What about convergent validity in case of a formative indicator? A formative construct having formative indicators. We don't have the concept of convergence. Rather, we assess the redundancy. The redundancy is assessed through a global single item, which is the most preferable approach, wherein you link the latent variable of the formative construct with a single item, which is known as single global item, and you measure it separately in the survey questionnaire. You link it with the latent variable later on. You need to have this single global item in the questionnaire so that you have the data on it. And if the correlation between them, the latent variable joined to the global single item in the model, is above 0.7, if it is above 0.7, then you are good to go. You can say that you have checked the validity through redundancy analysis. Another difference is that in case of reflective indicators, we look in for factor loadings. Factor loadings should be at least more than 0.5, sometimes more than 0.6, and more than 0.7 is brilliant. But in case of formative indicators, we assess the significance of outer weights. So we check whether the outer weights of the formative indicators are significant or not. All these results you easily get in a report through PLS-SEM. In case the outer weights are not significant for a formative indicator, we check their outer loading. So if the outer loading is above 0.5, then we keep that indicator rather than remove that indicator from the construct. Why? Because removing a formative indicator means that you are missing on a certain aspect of measuring that latent variable, as each formative indicator conveys a different meaning and contributes to the formation of the formative construct. So that is the difference. Now, sometimes many people say that we don't have SmartPLS, we don't have AMOS. Both are licensed softwares. Though you get a trial version, but that has limited features and a limited time validity. So if you are looking to do CBSEM, you can check on to Onyx software, ONYX, which you can freely use. And if you are looking for PLS-SEM and you don't have the access to SmartPLS, then you can go ahead with the freely available ADANCO software, ADANCO. Another is Warp PLS, which you can easily download and use on your system for PLS SEM. So I hope I have cleared out your doubts on formative and reflective constructs, as well as what to use as a software in case IBM SPSS AMOS and SmartPLS is inaccessible to you. Good luck with your research and see you next time with some more informative content. Thanks a lot.